Welcome to the Big Ear Radio Observatory. Construction of this technological marvel began in 1956 and continued until 1963, when it was finally complete. The Big Ear Radio Observatory, affectionately known as the Big Ear, became part of the Ohio Sky Survey about 6 years ago, an astronomical survey of extragalactic radio sources. Since then, the Big Ear has been involved in SETI, or the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, with the newly released cinema extravaganza, Star Wars, on everyone's mind. It is no surprise that the Big Ear has become a popular location for people to talk about, visit, and research. In fact, with the newly discovered signal of unknown origin, nicknamed the WOW signal, people are more interested than ever with what sights and sounds unseen and unheard could be hidden in the stars above. What is the WOW signal, you ask? Well, on August 15th, the Big Ear picked up a strong narrowband signal which contained the hallmarks of extraterrestrial origin. You heard right? Right here at our own Ohio State Radio Observatory. Potential proof of life on other planets has been discovered. So try to contain your excitement as you tour the famous Ohio State University radio tower, the Big Ear. If you take the path straight, it will lead you underneath one of the larger fins of the tower. And if you continue forward, you will reach the staircase to the main console area.
Welcome back to another episode of Creepypasta Radio, where your fears come to life. Our first story of the evening just goes to show you that sometimes some things just don't stay buried. Creepypasta Radio presents A Trip to the Graveyard.
A trip to the graveyard. On an early dim morning, an elderly woman rested her hand atop a gravestone. Henry Blackwood, 1938 to 2004. She rested flowers on it and wept, something she didn't usually do. She always made sure to bring something of Harry's when she made her annual visit to his grave. Her memory wasn't what it used to be, and her brain needed help to get it jogged. She brought something he hated, his hearing aids. She remembered wistfully how he never used them, always insisting he had excellent hearing, despite keeping the television's volume up so high. Now all she wanted was his return to her loving embrace. "Oh, Henry." She fell to her knees and looked to the sky. "How I wish you'd come back to me." Up in the sky and through her blurred, teary vision, she saw a red star. It was faint, but she heard a malignant chuckle, and the star flashed to match it. Then it disappeared with the rising sun. She wiped away her tears. Strange. Was it a product of her imagination? She stood up and surveyed the area, but saw nothing. It seemed like the moment was merely nothing but old senile womanly mood swings. As she smiled at her silly old self, a question came to her that felt like part of a dark realization. Could the battery in the hearing aid still work? She attached it to her best ear and turned it on. She could hear the rustling of crow feathers in a nearby tree. It probably still worked due to her husband's lack of commitment to use it. Then, swallowing hard, she rested her ear on the ground above his grave. Her mouth dropped in horror as she heard scratching, shuffling, and a familiar voice bellowing, a horrified scream.
Again, based on these stories, it seems like cremation is the way to go. Up next is a classic creepypasta regarding a man who just wanted to hunt in the woods. Creepypasta Radio presents Portraits.
Portraits. There was a hunter in the woods who, after a long day hunting, was in the middle of an immense forest. It was getting dark, and having lost his bearings, he decided to head in one direction until he was clear.
I'm putting this out there in hopes that someone will hear it. Anyone. Whatever you do, don't listen to Creepypasta Radio. It's how they turn you. Something about the radio waves, or embedded subliminal messaging, or something. That is how they get in your head. A few months after the incident, Creepypasta Radio started to air. At first, we thought it was another group of survivors trying to communicate, or maybe just doing something to pass the time, to let others know that there were more survivors out there. But we were wrong. We began to notice some of the people in our group started to listen to Creepypasta Radio religiously. They would tune in all day, all night, and into the next morning. And then their behavior began to change. It wasn't just from the sleep deprivation. They would begin to act depraved and animal-like, just like the creatures from the incident. They became a danger to the rest of the group. Many began to take on physical characteristics of the creatures. Their eyes glazed over and blackened. Their bodies would morph and twist until they matched the same distorted human-like form of those creatures. That's when we realized what they all had in common. Creepypasta Radio. It was changing them, morphing them, accessing their brains and rewiring them, but not just mentally, physically. Don't listen to Creepypasta Radio. It will change you. I repeat, stay away from Creepypasta Radio.
I found it. I found their main tower. It's big. If we want to shut it down, we're gonna need numbers.
We have enough. If we don't try to shut them down now, our numbers will only get smaller.
Alright then. Here's the location of the tower.
We need to move quickly. Tell the others and grab the gear. Remember, they can mimic voices of people they've infected, so don't shoot unless you have visual confirmation it's one of the creatures.